All right, back on the Young Turks. Obama went on the warpath, but we're going to get back to that a little bit later in the program. He's following our advice. As you listen to him, all of a sudden, he sounds like TYT. All right, let me save my happiness and frustration at the same time about that till later, okay? But first, we got to do this story now. You know Pastor Terry Jones, he's the head of the Dove World Outreach Church, which is ironically named with the word dove in it because it is not at all peaceful. He's down in Florida in Gainesville, and he's decided that he's going to do Burn a Quran Day on September 11th to commemorate the anniversary of 9/11 by burning a Quran. Now, this guy is a complete and utter clown. We've told you about him before. First of all, he's got a handlebar mustache, which went out of style about 35 years ago, okay? So he's got to police that mustache. That's point number one. Point number two is this guy got kicked out of his last church because they were worried that he was dipping into the till, okay? And he's got 18 other problems. You check out our earlier YouTube clip on him, okay? Now, but he's got it in his stupid-ass head that he's going to burn a Quran and that's going to somehow send a message against the evil of Islam. He's got a rinky-dink church with about 50 people in it. But somehow this story caught on fire. Excuse the pun, not intended. Okay, usually I do intend it. Anyway, and it's spread all throughout the world, and people are worked up in Afghanistan and other places, and Muslims are beginning to interpret it as if all of America is doing this. Now that's driving me crazy, because this guy is a fringe player that doesn't have anything to do with anybody in this country, right? But luckily, people have not let it sit. You know, I've got mixed feelings on it, because the best thing to do would have been probably to ignore it. But now that it's out there, everybody's coming out and condemning it. All the way from General Petraeus to General Odierno, who's, of course, in charge in Iraq. Petraeus is in Afghanistan. To Angelina Jolie, to the Vatican, to David Axelrod. All right, let me start with Petraeus. Here's what our commander in Afghanistan said. It could endanger troops, and it could endanger the overall effort. It is precisely the kind of action the Taliban uses and could cause significant problems. Now, he added that not just here, but all throughout the world, wherever we have troops in Islamic areas, this could cause problems for our troops. Odierno doubled down on that in Iraq, saying this is a terrible idea, and you don't want to, again, inflame passions by doing something like this. It's a terrible idea. Now, everybody else agrees with this. Let me give you another quote here. Here's Attorney General Eric Holder. He kept it simple. He just called it idiotic and dangerous. Okay, very clear on that. And then number three, the Vatican jumped in. The Vatican said, look, the terrorist attacks of 9/11 cannot be counteracted by an outrageous and grave gesture against a book considered sacred by a religious community. And then finally, and there's a million of these quotes, and over 24, and this is the part I love, religious communities in that area, churches, temples, Muslims, so Jews, Christians, and Muslims all getting together in their different areas of worship and saying that they're going to fight against this, and they're all against this. In fact, some of the churches and the temples have said that they will read sections of the Quran in their services as a form of protest. Now that's wonderful. That's great to see in America, right? And then Hillary Clinton probably had the best point on this. She said, as an act of patriotism, the media should not be covering the burning of this book. Quote, it's regrettable that a pastor in Gainesville, Florida, with a church of no more than 50 people can make this outrageous and distressful, disgraceful plan and get the world's attention. Now, I'm not sure that the media shouldn't cover it, but I like that she pointed out this is a tiny, tiny extremist group in Florida, and it does not represent us, and the world should not get confused on that. And that's our Secretary of State saying it. So we're all generally united on this, with some small exceptions. John Boehner, the leader of the Republicans, is on with Stephanopoulos at Good Morning America, and you're going to have to pull his teeth a little bit to get him to condemn it. First of all, he's going to throw the Park 51 situation in there, and then second of all, check out this long pause before the answer. Clip number 6.
We've seen this Pastor Terry Jones down in Florida threatening to burn the Quran. This weekend, General Petraeus has spoken out against it. Secretary of State Clinton has spoken out against it. What is your message for Pastor Jones?
Well, to Pastor Jones and those who want to build the mosque, just because you have a right to do something in America does not mean it is the right thing to do. We're a nation of religious freedom. We're also a nation of tolerance. And I think in the name of tolerance, people ought to really think about the kind of actions they're taking.
So you're telling him not to do it? Sir, you're telling him not to do it?
Well, listen, I just think that it's not wise to do this in the face of what our country really represents and over some, 234 years.
Man, that was not a strong statement of not to do it. You're telling him not to do it, right? What do you think about this thing? Well, maybe it's not the right thing to do. Of course, John Boehner standing against the whole world. Nicely done, okay? So now, remember when John Boehner doesn't want you to do something, he knows how to say it. If he doesn't want you to do, can I burn the Quran? He could have said, hell no, you can't! But he didn't say that. He said, maybe, right? Or you heard it for yourself. You saw it right there, okay? So now, one other thing there, of course, he's equating the burning of the Quran with any Muslim wanting to build a mosque in Lower Manhattan. Okay, that's also offensive, but I love that he couched it in tolerance. Like, we should have tolerance so we shouldn't burn the Quran, and we should have tolerance so we shouldn't let Muslims build a mosque. How does that make sense? Right? It doesn't. Now, look, let's get to the essence of it. What do I think of Pastor Terry Jones' plan? Now, because remember, I'm born Muslim, but I'm an agnostic, so I'm going to go in a couple of different directions here, or I could. I know you're on the edge of your seat, right? So number one, let's be clear. Does he have the right to burn the Quran? Of course he does. It's a First Amendment right. The fire department down there said that they're not going to give him the permit to start a fire. That's ridiculous. No, I don't even agree with the fire department. Can he put it in a garbage can and burn it and have it be safe? Of course he can. Now, point number two, is it atrocious? Of course it is. It's gratuitously offensive. Coming from someone who has been offensive towards religions before, okay? But I hope that I was trying to make a decent, political, and intellectually honest point. Not just to say, oh, well, another religion is evil and my religion rocks, so I'm going to burn their book. I think that's gratuitously offensive. I think almost the whole world agrees. And maybe John Boehner. Right? So should he do it? Of course not. But Petraeus actually has the best point. He said, what are you going to put our troops in danger for? Look at the reaction that this might get. Now, why are you going to risk that? For what? It doesn't make sense. You've already said it in 100 different ways. He's printed out shirts saying Islam is of the devil, right? He's put that up on a sign on his church, etc. We get it. You're not in favor of Islam, right? Now, point number three. How about the Muslim reaction to this? Okay, now we go to some quotes from Afghanistan. Now, they're, of course, very upset, and that's why Petraeus and Odierno are worried about what might happen in Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Here is Mohammed Mukhtar. He's a cleric and a candidate for the Afghan parliament. That's in the elections that are coming up in September. He says, quote, "It's the duty of Muslims to react. When their holy book, Quran, gets burned in public, then there is nothing left. If this happens, I think the first and most important reaction will be that wherever Americans are seen, they will be killed. No matter where they will be in the world, they will be killed." Well, Mohammed Mukhtar is an idiot. And there's a specific reason why I use that word. Because listen, you moron, this guy is telling you that he's going to burn the Quran because Islam is a violent religion. That's some of the things he said in the past. And you're going to prove him wrong by saying, if you burn the Quran, I will kill you. But not only will I try to kill you, I'll just kill random Americans that have nothing to do with you, in fact, that have condemned you. How painfully stupid can you be? Okay, how much can you prove this radical's case by being even more radical? Okay, and second of all, to the point of Muslims getting offended by somebody burning your Quran. I don't know if this put me in trouble, but dude, get over it, okay? Who cares? I mean, why does it affect your faith what somebody else thinks of your faith or what they do to a bunch of pages in a book? Now, if you burned Charles Darwin's book on evolution The Origin of Species, would I be like, oh my God, I have to murder you? How stupid would that be? You do whatever you like to that book. I don't give a damn. That's your life. If you want to be stupid, it's your choice, not my choice. And I don't care what you do. I'm not offended. If somebody says, oh, agnostics, they're the worst. In fact, we covered a story yesterday when somebody said atheists are, what were they, parasites, right? The guy's an idiot. I don't care. It doesn't change my belief at all, not even 1%, because my faith or my belief has nothing to do with what stupid Pastor Terry Jones does or what Muhammad Mukhtar does. Why do you think you have to defend your faith by killing other people if they don't agree with it? Doesn't that show you that you actually don't have faith in your religion? I mean, if Allah is on your side, why do you have to go and kill people who disagree? Aren't you going to be proven right? When you get up to the gates of heaven, aren't you going to have a good belly laugh with Allah? Be like, oh, imagine Pastor Terry Jones. Where is he? He's in hell, right? Burning up like a marshmallow. Yeah, so what can you do to him or other random Americans that God can't do? I mean, to me, that is the height of hubris, right? So instantly, guys like Muhammad Mukhtar, and of course that is not all Muslims by a long shot, but obviously some, as you see here, they are much worse than Pastor Terry Jones. Because the pastor's a clown, but he ain't killing anybody, okay? Now, we go to another Kabul resident, and this guy's random. I mean, he's just a guy off the street. He's a civilian in Afghanistan. The other guy was a cleric and running for office in Afghanistan. Now, this is Rajab Ali. He says, if this burning of the Quran happens, there will be chaos in Afghanistan. And being a Muslim, if we don't defend the Quran, then what else can we do? How about you go and grab a sandwich? Or watch a soccer game? Or go play ping pong? Why? How is killing people over somebody else burning the book defending Islam? Here's what would be defending Islam. Let me show you scripture in the Quran that shows that Islam is a religion of peace. Or let me show you scriptures in the Quran that are, I don't know if you're competing with the other religions, which I find silly, but if you are, so that shows that it's better than the Bible, or it's better than the Torah, or that it is more equal, or that it is more just, or that God favors it more. However you want to prove it. That would be defending your faith. Killing a random dude that had nothing to do with you burning somebody else, burning a couple of pages that you like, has nothing to do with defending Islam. In fact, it besmirches Islam. It's a great shame and dishonor to Islam. And look, and that's what we fight against. We fight against the fundamentalists in this country, people like Pastor Terry Jones. We also fight against the fundamentalists all across the world, whether they're Christians, Jews, Muslims, agnostics, or atheists, okay? And in this case, you got the fundamentalist Muslims and the fundamentalist Christians, and it's not all fundamentalist Christians and it's not all fundamentalist Muslims, but the ones that are cited in this story, outdoing one another as to who could be dumber, who could be more violent, who can be more ridiculous, and who can antagonize one another more so that more people can get killed. Everybody's a loser in this story. And by the way, you know, apparently the rest of the world, including some people running for office in Afghanistan, still don't understand the whole point of America. And unfortunately, some of the people here don't understand it either. We are an open and free society. We don't control what other people do. I can't control Pastor Jones, and I love that. I might disagree with him, and I might think he's clown of the world. But in this country, you get to be whatever you want. And if he wants to be a skinhead, he can be a skinhead. If he wants to be a guy prancing down the street doing hula hoops, he can do that. You know why? Because we live in a free country. And so the American government will not and should not do anything about Pastor Terry Jones. And the rest of the world has to understand that. We don't all think alike in America. We have a wide variety of views, and we're supposed to allow them all. We're supposed to allow Muslims and anti-Muslims. That's America. And get it through your thick skull. Now, of course, for Terry Jones, he also says, when they said, hey, look, you're going to get troops killed. What the hell are you doing, right? And he comes in and says, but how much do we back down? How many times do we back down? Instead of us backing down, maybe it's time to stand up. Maybe it's time to send a message to radical Islam that we will not tolerate their behavior. Yeah, you burning that book will really show. Okay? And who are you standing up to, and what are you doing? You know, hey, Pastor Jones, you want to stand up? I got a great place where you can stand up. It's called Kabul. Okay, let me go see you burn that book in Kabul. Because you're a tough guy, right? Now, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to get killed, right? It's a terrible idea, and I don't want you burning it anywhere. But if you're going to be a tough guy and talking about how you're standing up for your religion, you're going to go get him. Okay, instead of Gainesville, why don't you burn it in Kandahar? See how it works out for you. Oh, you're not that tough, right? And by the way, I just want to make it extra clear. I don't want him going to Kandahar or Kabul, and I don't want anything to happen to him. We're surrounded by clowns to the left of us and jokers to the right of us. Actually, that's not true. Clowns to the right of us and jokers to the right of us, just in this country and in other countries. When's the last time somebody on the left came out and was like, oh, I won't tolerate other people's opinions, and if they try to do something I'm against, I will kill them? Not often. Not often. Okay. All right. And by the way, we're going to talk to Marcos Melissus about that a little later in the program. He thinks the right wing are the American Taliban. He's getting a lot of heat for it, but I think he makes an interesting case. So that's a little later in the program. All right, one more thing here about Islam or perversion of Islam or countries that are Islamic, however you want to characterize it. Iran is doubling down on their treatment of Sakineh Mohammadi Ashtiani. Sorry, not a great pronunciation. So now she's the woman who was tried and convicted for adultery, and they have given her different sentences. Once they give her 99 lashes, then they decided she should be stoned to death, and then they decided to commute the sentence during Ramadan, and now we have word out that they have actually already lashed her. Somebody that was in prison with her, this is not an official statement, just somebody who was in prison with her came out and said, oh yeah, they already gave her 99 lashes. And the excuse for it, and this is the woman you're looking at here, is that there was a picture of her. They changed it completely. The new excuse is there was a picture of her in a paper in London where her head was not covered. So that is immodest and apparently against the laws of Iran. So if you show your hair, you will be whipped in the back 99 times. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, way to stick up for Islam and make it seem like a great religion. That's a winning strategy. Boy, that'll convince a lot of people. Hey, maybe I should be Muslim because if I accidentally show some hair, maybe I'll get lashed 99 times. Now, look, that is not all Muslims. But if Ahmadinejad thinks that he's sticking up for Muslims, he's got a funny way of showing it because he makes us look, and I say us because I was born Muslim, my family's Muslim, he makes all Muslims look terrible. And you saw his wife. I guess she's, you know, she's a wonder of fashion over there. All right. Now, they say, by the way, on Ashtiani, not only did they already whip her, but they say once Ramadan is over, there's an excellent chance they're going to execute her anyway. So then she gets the 99 lashes and gets stoned to death. Now, it hasn't happened yet. Everybody's up in arms. The Vatican's working behind the scenes to try to stop it. The Italian government is working. We're working, etc. I mean, this is so atrocious that I'm beginning to think that Iran is trying to pick a fight. Now, this is the third or fourth piece of evidence we've shared with you on this program of Iran being purposely belligerent, there was the mass graves that they say they dug up for the American soldiers if they invade the country, because they will all be slaughtered. Yeah. We heard all that crap from Saddam Hussein until he went and hid in a spider hole and was like, oh, no, please don't do it, please don't do it, right? So enough with the BS bravado. Come on, man. No, when he does this and he keeps poking us, it makes me think he's going to start a fight. I got another piece of evidence for you in a second. But think about that, too. Let's think about how sick this is. He uses the fact that the West cares about Iranian citizens and does not want them to be brutalized as a ploy for him, pushing his agenda. So he doesn't mind brutalizing, torturing, and murdering his own citizens because he knows we care about them. So, I get in debates with people who want to attack Iran, right? And I don't want to. I think it's a terrible idea for 100 different reasons. But I don't want anybody making the mistake. It's because I think Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is a sensible leader. I think he's loathsome. All right, now, another piece of evidence that he wants to pick the fight. He has decided to kick out a couple of United Nations Atomic Agency inspectors because they found out that he is conducting nuclear activities that were undeclared nuclear experiments. Okay, so when he sees this, he says, "Oh, you want to find out that I did experiments? Well, then you're kicked out of the country." Well, that would seem to defeat the whole point of you getting inspected, wouldn't it? If somebody catches you, you kick them out of the country. Now he says, "Look, I still got it. There's still 150 guys who are being good boys and girls that are inside Iran that I haven't kicked out because they haven't caught me yet. But if they do, I'll kick them out too. So, but trust us, it's for peaceful purposes." No, I do not trust you, and but I see the game that you're playing. Look, what we do about Iran's nuclear program is a very interesting and difficult question. I don't think it helps if we attack. But here's what is clear, given what Ahmadinejad has been doing over the last couple of months. He certainly wants us to attack. Now remember, he's got a lot of trouble at home, domestically. Remember, his government is totally illegitimate. They stole the election, and the Iranian people are not happy with them. What's the one thing that legitimizes him in the eyes of his own people? If he gets attacked by America or Israel or the West. So he's basically saying, just keeps poking us, saying, come on, hit me, hit me, hit me. So we got the right-wingers over here who want to hit him, and we got the right wing over there who wants to get hit, and we're stuck in the middle. Here we go again. And if that war starts, they're not going to fight it. Ahmadinejad's not going to go into the trenches. Our neocons aren't going to go into the trenches. They're going to be the first ones to run. We've shared all their excuses before, during Vietnam, during every war. They're like, "Oh, no, I don't fight it. No, we sent other people to fight the wars. And we'll get stuck in the middle, and we'll get killed. And we will spill not only blood, but a great amount of American treasure doing it." Why? Because Ahmadinejad wanted that fight. Don't give in to his games. It's still a terrible idea to attack Iran, but if they are going in this direction, significant sanctions are obviously in order. The flip side is, damn it, Turkey and Brazil worked out a deal here where Iran was going to give up these weapons, and we didn't take it. Why didn't we take it? Why didn't we take it? You go back, and now the American media pretends that deal was never offered. That deal, did anybody even analyze that deal in the American media outside of us? Go back and look at the deal that Brazil and Turkey put together, that they negotiated. It is almost exactly what we wanted, what we said we wanted, the United States. And when they gave it to us, they said, hey, Iran is going to take that nuclear material out of the country. It's going to get developed into energy somewhere else and bring it back to Iran. Exactly what we asked for. We said no deal. So we're at fault, he's at fault, and I'm telling you, you and I are going to get stuck with the bill, and we're going to get stuck fighting this war between both sides, which are radical, absurd, and ridiculous. And I thought we voted for change. Well, there's nothing we can do about Ahmadinejad. There is something we can do about our own leadership. Come on, Obama. Now, you want to say, hey, look, I promised a bigger war in Afghanistan, and I'm getting you out of Iraq. Well, you didn't promise a war in Iran. So if you got a good deal, you don't listen to the stupid Washington neocons and the media and the establishment. You take the deal. You got to have the strength and the courage to be a leader. And we don't have that over here. Young Turks.
And I'm super bad.
Back on TYT. Look, I hate to do it. I hate to tell you I told you so. Except I don't really hate it. I got to be honest. I rather enjoy it. Now, it's unfortunate in this case because it's bad news. Two pieces of news about healthcare in this country. First of all, California regulators have gone after Pacificare. They were bought by United Health Group, and when they were bought a couple of years back, the United Health Group, which is actually the largest health insurance company in the country, said, oh, no, don't worry. We're going to pay a lot of attention to California. We're going to do everything right, and we're not going to, lessen our treatment of our clients and the doctors that work with us, et cetera. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. Come to find out it wasn't. Between 2006 and 2008, they would routinely mismanage medical claims, lose thousands of patients' documents, fail to pay doctors, and ignore calls to fix the problems. Now, why is that relevant? Because somebody gets a disease and they need to get surgery right away. And Pacific Care says, sad day, I lost your documents. You're going to have to wait on that. Meanwhile, that person is getting sicker and sicker, and a lot of them die because they didn't get the treatment, right? Because they know, hey, if you die, I don't have to pay your bills. Now, that's really sick. And they know that if they don't pay the doctors, even after whatever procedure is done, that some percentage of the doctors will give up on it, or some percentage of the doctors will take less. So these are the games they play with our lives and with our livelihood if you're in the medical profession, right? So you know what kind of fine California has decided that they're going to go after Pacific Care on? $9.9 billion. They're saying, we're coming for you. You know how many violations Pacific Care had in just that 2-year period? Over 1 million. Now, you get a sense that this is a regular occurrence, that they do this on purpose to make more money while we all suffer, we get sicker, or sometimes we die? They don't give a damn. What did I tell you? Private insurance, is private. They're going to want to make a profit. And in healthcare, how do you make a profit? You pay less in terms of coverage, and you charge people more. And who gets screwed in between? We do. It is not something that private corporations will be good at doing, because they'll be too good at making a profit off of it. And we've told you about CEOs of groups like this before who have made billions of dollars. The CEO makes billions, and we don't get treatment. Now, the second part is even more important. I told you that if we did healthcare reform and we didn't control how much they can raise their premiums, that they would raise their premiums and they would blame the Democrats in healthcare reform. First of all, don't take my word for it. Here's a small clip, one of dozens I did at the time, from March of, is it 2010 this year? Okay, let's watch. What did I tell you? I said they would immediately raise rates, and they would blame it on the bill. And that's exactly what was happening back then, what's happening today. And I don't make this stuff up. Where do I get my so-called predictions from? I read the papers. They said they were going to raise the rates. That's why I said that back then. And logic indicated that they would, because you didn't do anything to control it. And now it's finally coming to fruition, right? So they are putting what they said into action. Right before the election, 2 months before the election, here we have regions raising their rates by 17.1% on average. We've got the ODS health plan raising their rates by 20.73% on average. Celtic Insurance, 18%. MMA, 4%. And then you see those little bars, the 3.4, 6.01, 9, 4, et cetera. Those are what they're saying is that's the increase due to healthcare reform. We didn't want to increase your rates, but this terrible healthcare reform, of course, increased our costs, and we had to pass that cost on to you. So if you don't like that, vote Republican. That is, in essence, what they're telling you. Now, how do you like those deals you made with those groups, President Obama? Did that work out for you? You know what the Democrats comically said after healthcare reform passed? They said no, that they think on average the rates would rise in the next year about 1%. I laughed at them then, I laugh at them now. If you don't put anything in the law checking the rates, and you put us at the mercy of these monopolies, they will raise our rates at their leisure. We don't have other choices. That's why we pushed for the public option, not because we're pinko commies, but because we can't pay our rates, and we wanted an honest option where we can go and say, hey, you know what, I want to be covered. What is the rate you're going to charge me without your CEO making $1 billion? And if you have that option, you might not even have to exercise it, because then private insurance would have to compete, and they can't keep raising the rates over and over again. But we didn't fix the essence of it. We didn't fix the core of the problem. So they're doing exactly what I told you they'd be doing. They continue to raise our rates and blame healthcare reform for it. Now does it look like it's mission accomplished? Now do you see why I didn't like the reform package in the first place? Change you can believe in. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. I'd like to make some announcements. I always enjoy that. Okay. Just a couple of quick notes here. Number one, tonight we're launching TYT Sports on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/TYT Sports. The videos aren't up yet, but we're going to, after this show is over, we're going to do our first football show. And I can't wait to tell you who's going to be awesome this year in football and who's going to suck. God, I love sports. All right. So that will be up tonight on TYT Sports. Everybody, I want to make sure that you all know The Top Vlog. That's another YouTube channel we have, and it's youtube.com/The Top Vlog. And that's where you can find commentary from like former Daily Show correspondent Brian Unger, former Daily Show creator, co-creator Liz Winstead, Sam Cedars on there, Joan McCarter from Daily Kos, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great channel, so check that out. What else did I want to announce? Oh, I want to give my buddy Ed Schultz here and the unions a little shout out, okay? Because they're trying to do a rally on October 2nd. And God bless their hearts, Ed Schultz is going to go speak there. And honestly, you know I keep it real, right? I'm a little worried, right? Because they said that they can get as many people as Glenn Beck did to his rally. And you know I gave Beck a lot of credit for getting a lot of people to show up. I'm a little worried, okay? But so go help them out, show up, it's going to be great. Look, they actually care about something real, which is getting more people in the country employed. That's our number one problem, right? This isn't for some Gold Line sponsor. This isn't some weird revival. This is for, hey, how do we solve the problem of employment in this country? It's on October 2nd. It's called One Nation Working Together. In fact, you can find out more at onenationworkingtogether.org. And like I said, Schultz is going to speak, and it's for a good cause. So if you're in D.C. anytime soon, or if you're planning to go, that would be a good time. All right? So I wanted to let everybody know about that. Now, Barack Obama is on the warpath. He is going to go after the Republicans in ways that I've asked for in the past. He's actually in Ohio, in John Boehner's hometown. Of course, Boehner is the, I almost call him the Speaker of the House. Not yet, not yet. Let's hope not. But he is, of course, the minority leader in the House for the Republicans. And if the Republicans win the House, obviously, he would become Speaker of the House, which sounds disastrous. Apparently, Barack Obama agrees, and he's going to take the fight to him. Let's go to clip number one.
A few weeks ago, the Republican leader of the House came here to Cleveland and offered his party's answer to our economic challenges. Now, it would be one thing if he had admitted his party's mistakes during the 8 years that they were in power, if they had gone off for a while and meditated and come back and offered a credible new approach to solving our country's problems. But that's not what happened. There were no new policies from Mr. Boehner. There were no new ideas. There was just the same philosophy that we had already tried during the decade that they were in power. The same philosophy that led to this mess in the first place. Cut more taxes for millionaires and cut more rules for corporations.
Cut more taxes for millionaires and cut more rules for corporations. Hey! Finally going to war. Okay. I like it. Now, look. I can't help it. I can't help it. Didn't I tell you? As the election gets closer and closer, all of a sudden Barack Obama is going to become the world's biggest progressive. Because they know being progressive wins elections, but when you're in office, you got to be anything but, right? Now he's going after the corporations. But it's a good thing. I'm torn on it every time. But he's obviously heading in the right direction. He's beginning to sound more like me. So, of course, I'm going to think he's going in the right direction. So let's go to clip number 2 here, and he's going to explain the difference between Republican and Democratic ideas.
Now, let me give you a few specific examples of our different approaches. This week, I propose some additional steps to grow the economy and help businesses spur hiring. One of the keys to job creation is to encourage companies to invest more in the United States. But for years, our tax code has actually given billions of dollars in tax breaks that encourage companies to create jobs and profits in other countries. I want to change that. I want to change that. Instead of tax loopholes that incentivize investment in overseas jobs, I'm proposing a more generous, permanent extension of the tax credit that goes to companies for all the research and innovation they do right here in Ohio, right here in the United States of America. And I'm proposing that all American businesses should be allowed to write off all the investment they do in 2011. And this will help small businesses upgrade their plants and equipment, and will encourage large corporations to get off the sidelines and start putting their profits to work in places like Cleveland and Toledo and Dayton.
See, after every one of these clips, I'm going to tell you the same thing. I'm torn. I love to hear it. It's absolutely right. At the same time, look, the corporate loopholes that he's talking about, why didn't he work on that for the last 2 years? Not to say that he didn't propose it, right? I think, if I remember correctly, they once proposed it and then the Republicans swatted it back and they ran for the hills, right? See, he should have been giving this speech not now. Well, good, I'm glad he's giving it now, but he should have been giving it 18 months ago. He should have come out and said, these guys are for corporate loopholes. These guys are for corporate loopholes. They're for offshoring your job. They're for offshoring your job. Now, why did I want him to say it back then? Not because I want him to run a permanent campaign. It's because that way he might have won on those issues. Instead, he kept his powder dry until the elections rolled around. All right, but nonetheless, let's let him go to clip number 3. Still doing a good job. Here you go.
Now, to most of you, I'll bet this just seems like common sense. But not to Mr. Boehner and his allies. For years, Republicans have fought to keep these corporate loopholes open. In fact, when Mr. Boehner was here in Cleveland, he attacked us for closing a few of these loopholes and using the money to help states like Ohio keep hundreds of thousands of teachers and cops and firefighters on the job. Mr. Boehner dismissed these jobs we saved, teaching our kids, patrolling our streets, rushing into burning buildings, as, quote, government jobs. Jobs, I guess, he thought just weren't worth saving. And I couldn't disagree more. I think teachers and police officers and firefighters are part of what keeps America strong. And Ohio, I think if we're going to give tax breaks to companies, they should go to companies that create jobs here in America, not that create jobs overseas. That's one difference between the Republican vision and the Democratic vision. That's what this election is all about.
I would have done a national speech, I don't know, 6 months ago at least, where it addressed to the nation, where I would have just done that 90 seconds Obama just did. Say, why does John Boehner and the Republicans want to fire teachers, cops, and firemen? End of my national address. I'll see you guys later. Okay. You know what that would have started? That would have started a national conversation of why do the Republicans want to fire these folks? So when I see Obama doing this stuff, I think, well, he knows how to do it, right? I mean, that's how he won the election last time. That's how he's trying to win this election for the Democratic Party. So why didn't he do it for the last 18 months? It's a good question. All right, let's go to clip number 4.
I'll give you one final example of the differences between us and the Republicans, and that's on the issue of tax cuts. Under the tax plan passed by the last administration, taxes are scheduled to go up substantially next year for everybody. By the way, this was by design. When they passed these tax cuts in 2001 and 2003, they didn't want everybody to know what it would do to our deficit. So they pretended like they were going to end, even though now they say they don't. Now, I believe we ought to make the tax cuts for the middle class permanent. For the middle class, permanent. But the Republican leader of the House doesn't want to stop there. Make no mistake, he and his party believe we should also give a permanent tax cut to the wealthiest 2% of Americans. With all the other budgetary pressures we have, with all the Republicans talk about wanting to shrink the deficit, they would have us borrow $700 billion over the next 10 years to give a tax cut of about $100,000 each to folks who are already millionaires. And keep in mind, wealthy Americans are just about the only folks who saw their incomes rise when Republicans were in charge. And these are the folks who are less likely to spend the money, which is why economists don't think tax breaks for the wealthy would do much to boost the economy.
Why haven't you been saying this for the last 2 years? Why? Why? The flip side is I'm going to give him the most amount of credit for that one. And why? Or as I would say, why? Why? Okay, the reason is he's acting on that one, okay? Right now, the Republicans are pressuring him to do a compromise, so-called compromise. His former budget director, or as Bush would call him, his budget man, Peter Orszag, came out in the New York Times yesterday and said, oh, yeah, let's do a compromise so that we extend the tax cuts for everybody, including the wealthiest Americans, all the way to 2013. And then if we happen to have a Republican president in 2013, well, we'll extend them forever. So as soon as I read that column, as I explained yesterday on the show, I was like, oh, thank God Peter Orszag's out of the White House. Okay, and by the way, you know what happened today as a follow-up? John Boehner came out and said, oh, you know, Obama's own budget director says we should extend the tax cuts for the rich. Okay, and then Gibbs came back at him, but it was silly, etc. So, but in this one, Obama is not just talking, he's acting, because he's saying, no, I do not accept any so-called compromise. I don't care what Peter Orszag says. We are not extending the tax cuts for the wealthy, period. Now, if he sticks with that, that's great. And look, now that he's finally getting in and actually fighting back, here's a suggestion which is nearly indisputable, and it looks like he might do it, given what you're hearing here in the Ohio speech. And JR found all these parts of the speech, and I think it's really important to go through it so you get a sense of where the Democratic Party and where the White House stands today, right? So they should introduce a bill saying, here is your tax cuts for 98% of us. I'm going to extend the Bush taxes. Now, I don't agree with that, but I'm saying policy-wise. But because I don't think any of it should be extended. By the way, the tax cuts for the 98%, that also costs us $3 trillion. So that's why I don't want to extend them. That's why I don't agree with the administration there. But for political reasons, and certainly the administration's position is much better than the Republican position, because the extra 2% gets $700 billion over the next 10 years. So politically speaking, Obama should come out and say, hey, look, I'm going to get you tax cuts for 98% of people. Now, are the Republicans going to vote against it or what? Because if they are, I'm going to run against them, man. I got the commercials made already. Republicans killed tax cuts for 98% of it. They killed them. We had tax cuts for the middle class, and the Republicans killed it. They didn't want the tax cuts. Are we playing hardball? I mean, are we going to war? Right? Let's do it. If we're going to go to war, let's go to war. And it looks like the Democrats are kind of headed in that direction. I hope they finish it and do that final piece of the puzzle, because remember, Congress comes back in September. That's when they can introduce that bill and then dare the Republicans to not only vote against it, but to filibuster it, which you know they will. And then say, Republicans filibuster tax cuts for all of you. And they claim they're for tax cuts. Well, they're holding your tax cut hostage to make sure that the richest people in the country get a $700 billion tax break. I just wrote the commercial for you. And then run that 1,000,000 times in every district. And you know what? You will turn it around And you might even keep the House if you did that. JR, are you with me or against me? Come on now, wait a minute. Now, I'm trying to figure out, does that make sense or does it not make sense?
I mean, it's the same thing we've been saying the whole time, but we can always wish for things that make sense that they'll do, but it's never going to happen. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why I've lost 98%, ironically.
No, so JR, I mean, you see this speech and you think it's a good speech. That's why you clipped it up, right? But are you not buying what he's saying?
Well, I'm buying what he's saying, and this is what they'll always say. Like during the healthcare debate, he advocated this. He advocated the public option. He advocated for everything he wanted to do, the financial reform, all the stuff he went through. But is he going to do it?
Is he going to do it? That's the whole question.
Because it's not to do it for any practical reasons or for getting any things done. It's for getting back in office. That's all everybody cares about. It's really all anybody cares about.
It's almost like we figured out politics. All right, I got one last one for you from the speech. Clip number 5.
So let me be clear to Mr. Boehner and everybody else. We should not hold middle-class tax cuts hostage any longer.
Yay, there it is.
We are ready this week, if they want, to give tax cuts to every American making $250,000 or less. That's 97% of Americans.
Put the bill up. Put the bill up.
Now, for any income over this amount, the tax rates would just go back to what they were under President Clinton. This isn't to punish folks who are better off. God bless them. It's because we can't afford the $700 billion price tag. And for those who claim that our approach would somehow be bad for growth and bad for small businesses, let me remind you that with those tax rates in place under President Clinton, this country created 22 million jobs.
How much did he sound like me there, right? He's like, look, I'm not against rich folks. God bless them, right? So, then he making the argument that, hey, when we had higher tax rates, our economy did better. We added 22 million jobs. Look, man, that last clip was pitch perfect, right? So let's go get them. Let's go get them, okay? Follow through. Introduce the bill. If the Republicans vote against it, make the commercials, run them in every single district, and beat the hell out of them, okay, you know?
Supposed to do, you take them out of the office and hit them with a stick a couple times. They will do.
And then, if you happen to win or hold on to the House and the Senate, for the love of God, actually do what you promised, okay? And if you see, one last thing on this, because this is absolutely critical. Because if they use this, and you know me, I'm fascinated by the politics, but I don't care about Team Democrat or Team Republican. Ultimately, what I care more about, not more about, the only thing I care about is policy, right? Do we get the results we want? So now, why is the politics, or how is the politics connected to the policy? If they use this method to beat up the Republicans, and they win, largely speaking, or they don't lose as badly as people are expecting, right? Then that will scare the Republicans. So when you come out of that election in 2010, and you say, hey, remember how we beat you with a stick when we said you wouldn't allow the middle-class tax cuts and you stuck up for the rich? Well, I'm going to introduce that same bill. Now, I dare you to go ahead and vote against it again. Go ahead, filibuster. I dare you. I double dare you. And you know what? If you beat them with a stick in the elections, all of a sudden, they're not going to filibuster it again. You understand how that works? All of a sudden, you do get the tax cuts for the middle class, and we don't have the rich getting those tax cuts, which we can't afford. So because the bottom line is policy. Now, of course, there's 2 elements of that, 3 elements. Will the Democrats do it? If they do it, will it be successful in the elections? And then number 3, after they win the elections or survive the elections, will they actually do what they promised? And that's actually the biggest question of all, because you saw what happened in the last 18 months. All right, I have limited time, so I'm going to have fun with one last story for you guys. I'm going to go to Monica Crowley. She's filling in for Bill O'Reilly. She's going to be talking to Scooter Libby, the traitor, who sold out a CIA agent and endangered her life and the life of all of her contacts. And look at how much Monica Crowley fawns all over him. Clip number 10.
Scooter, final question for you. That absurd political witch hunt that you were subjected to during the Valerie Plame case. Your sentence was commuted, but you never did, in fact, get a pardon. Are you still hopeful that eventually you might get a pardon?
Well, Monica, I worked 13 years, maybe 12, something like that, for the federal government on national security. In that time, I met Czechs who had had their lives stunted under communism. I met Kurds who had suffered under the atrocities of Saddam Hussein. I met American families who had lost kids overseas. I learned two things from this. One is the world's not just, and the second is it doesn't do a lot of good to whine.
You were a class act, Scooter Libby, and had Monica Crowley been president of the United States, you would have gotten that pardon.
I look forward to that campaign, Monica.
If Monica Crowley... Oh, come on. And by the way, I'm just like the Czechs who fought against the communists and the Kurds who fought against Saddam and the American families who lost... But I'm not whining. I mean, I've suffered the same injustice as them, but you don't hear me crying about it except when I just cried about it. By the way, one last thing on that. Monica Crowley is a really bad host. Did you notice that? God, that was awkward. Young Turks.